Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. I came in a little early. Just a little bit early. I was so excited for the show.
Yeah, you're ready. You're pumped.
I'm pumped. It's Thursday, July 11th.
Oh, time's flying.
Time's flying when you're
winning fantasy championships.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, I had to do
Literally every show. My name is Morgan Colby. Rick Lemon is the cocky, arrogant champion over there.
Oh, well, what was the last thing you said?
Nothing. I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. What's up?
Today, we're going to talk about forgotten quarterbacks in our second to last episode in the Forgotten series. We have a question to start the show, but before we get into that, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the FF Champs on Twitter, at the Fantasy Champions on Instagram. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/the Fantasy Champions. Subscribe wherever you listen, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. Click the bell for notifications on YouTube. Leave a review. I told you last week, you've made it this far into this program, a minute and a half, and you're hearing me talk about leaving a review. I would just suggest stopping the podcast, just pausing it right now. Continue listening in a second. Pause the podcast. Go leave a review. Nice, glowing review of our podcast. Amazing.
Man, this podcast would have been so much better if you didn't tell me to pause it in the middle of it and write a review. Man, this stinks. 1 star.
1 star he gives us. Leave a review. I know you're listening. I know you want to leave a review. You probably don't. It's really annoying.
But it will help us out.
Yeah,
so
it will help us out.
Much appreciated.
And share this podcast with your friends. I'll throw that in there. So let's get to the icebreaker question to start the show. What's the ideal round? You take a quarterback, boss.
Well, if it's Patrick Mahomes, it's round 1. But if it's... I'm sorry.
Breaking news.
Ricky likes Patrick Mahomes. That's the breaking news for us today.
Sources tell me that Ricky's got a chubby for Patty. Now, all right.
You and 90% of the country.
That's true. I'm not the only one. I was at a time one of the only few. And then all of a sudden everybody likes to hop on the bandwagon.
I roasted you so hard
Guess
for
what?
drafting Mahomes.
You did. You roasted the crap out of me. It's funny. I remember when I drafted him too. You're like, I've never Dude, you're like, what are you doing? That's such a mistake.
I've never seen somebody die. Oh, actually, I have Max Kellerman saying Tom Brady's in decline. I've never seen somebody stand by their take as much as you have.
From Mahomes.
Yeah,
but here's the thing. It worked.
Yeah, well, it worked. But I'm saying you've never stood by a right take so much in your life. You're like every single time every time you see me, you wink at me and say, "I drafted Patrick Mahomes."
It's only because of the flack I took. If you guys didn't roast me, it wasn't only you. It was the whole room. The whole room started laughing when I took Mahomes.
Yeah.
So I have to throw it back for the rest of eternity.
I hope you feel good about that.
If you took if you took the most Kyler Murray in the 5th round and everybody laughs at you and he wins MVP, you know what I mean?
I'm so on board with that take right there.
Oh, Kyler Murray.
I love Kyler Murray.
Yeah, not in the 5th round.
Yeah, not in the 5th round.
Anyway,
ideal round.
Speaking of the what round, 5th round is not it either. For me, I want to get my team set. I'm not the type of guy that, streams quarterbacks, or your eyes just lit up when I said that. Or
I'll fall on that sword.
I don't like to take quarterbacks really early either. Unless someone is falling to me. Mm-hmm. That'd be the only way I'm taking a quarterback early. So the ideal spot for me is round 10. I think around the 10th round for me is where you want to start really looking for your quarterback. At this point, you already have your 2 receivers, your 2 running backs, you already got a flex. You already have your benches, pretty much your core bench is already set up, your top few guys. Now it's time to look at quarterbacks, and you're probably thinking, well, the 10th round's kind of late to start looking at guys being legitimate threats. But if you look at the guys that are there, there's still a lot of good quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, Jared Goff,
right?
Jameis Winston. There's a lot of guys that can be top 7-ish QBs in fantasy. So 10th round is for me. What about you?
So, I don't know. 2 months ago it was the 10th round, but I've been shifting a little bit.
So where's the ideal spot for you? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
So you can sit here.
You can well, but you can say like
lately I just have been not wanting to make a take, so that's no.
Man, I'm protesting drafting quarterbacks. That's my take.
I'm not even going to draft a quarterback. No. So I agree with you.
Like a month ago, you were saying.
I look at my draft and I say, 5 guys. My first 5 picks need to be the structure of my team. My next 5 picks need to be value guys that could possibly break out. And then after you get to that point, so what is that? 10 rounds. When you hit round 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, those 5 rounds, that's when you can start, to me, considering a quarterback. My ideal round right now is the 12th.
Okay.
About a week ago, Kyler Murray was going in the 12th, and I wanted to draft him. But
yeah, well, things change fast, don't they?
Yeah. A lot of people just jumped in and decided to draft Kyler Murray first overall.
So 12 rounds is pretty good, though. You can still get like Josh Allen. Or
So that's kind of where I'm at, is that if I'm going with the streaming quarterback strategy or something like that, I can get a good quarterback. There are times, we're going to talk about this guy today, Cam Newton. I am in love with Cam Newton this year.
Yeah.
I think he's a huge player that could break out this year and have another really good season. And what round is he going in?
10th.
Yeah. So
round.
In some sleeper drafts, he's going in the 12th. So
yeah.
I think there is a reality there for me that you can get a very good quarterback. And I think the other thing is too, this is why you make fun of me streaming quarterbacks, but this is why I stream quarterbacks, because you stick with one quarterback all year and you are liable to have that. Like last year, I had Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck went on that stretch of 25, 26, 27, 25, 26. Like it's 8 straight weeks of 25 plus points per game.
Which is insane.
Which is crazy. But then week 14 and 15, he put up some burgers. He put up a 5 fantasy point
some
game and a 10
burnt burgers.
Yeah, some burnt burgers, 5 and 10. And it's like you had Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes had a great year last year, but there were 1 or 2 weeks where you had, 12. He didn't have the best week.
Right.
He had 15 fantasy points one week and then 12 another.
Yeah.
He didn't completely bust where he didn't get you 10, like Carson Wentz did many times for me last year. But he did get you some, like some points, but he still had 2 bust games. No matter what quarterback you get, they're going to have games where they're not going to get 20 points.
Yeah.
The reason why I stream quarterbacks is that it's so easy. Like streaming tight ends is extremely hard. It's one of the hardest things you can do in fantasy. Trying to figure out
very hard,
what
yes.
tight end is going to do well. Like I've been on the streaming tight ends train for so many years, and now I'm like, the second I start the season, I'm going after a high-end tight end in trades because I can't deal with streaming tight ends. It drives me crazy. Quarterbacks, on the other hand, are extremely easy to stream. You can almost every week, like 1 week, I had the conversation with myself where I was like, should I draft Andrew Luck? I mean, should I use Andrew Luck this week, or should I use Jameis Winston? Jameis Winston that week had 24 fantasy points. Andrew Luck had 23 fantasy points. I started Andrew Luck. I don't regret starting Andrew Luck because it was 1 fantasy point difference, but it just goes to show you, I sat there for 2 hours thinking about this stupid decision, and it ultimately didn't matter. If you have a good matchup for a player, they're at home, and you can stream the quarterback, then you can stream the quarterback.
Typically, yeah.
More often than not, you're going to just about every week. Like you had Patrick Mahomes all last year. Patrick Mahomes basically didn't bust. If you stream quarterbacks and you do it properly, do your research, figure it out. It is about a 75 to 80% chance that your quarterback succeeds that particular week. And I think if you're getting what Patrick Mahomes did you might not get a 35-point game out of your streaming quarterback.
Right.
But if you use those
plus.
picks, if you use those picks that you didn't take a quarterback early to develop your team enough, you're not going to need 35 points from your quarterback.
That's
teams
true.
that need 35 points from their quarterback are teams that are losing games. So for me, develop your team, focus on the main positions, get your guys, and then get your quarterback. For me, it's 12th, 13th round. I think I can still get a guy that might break out in those weeks. But, you never know. That's why I stream quarterbacks, though. It's a valuable strategy. I think it's the easiest strategy or streaming quarterbacks is like the easiest stream of all time, besides kickers and defenses. Even kickers and defense might be a little bit harder. Like if you
streaming quarterbacks is not too hard if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, so it takes a little bit of time and research. And if there's anything I've noticed from fantasy football experts, the one thing they do get right is quarterbacks and streaming them. So I'm taking my quarterback late, unless something astronomical happens, where Patrick Mahomes is supposed to go in the 3rd round and he falls to the 7th or 8th round. And
that's
I'm like, that's not going to happen. But like I said, astronomical, like freak thing.
Aaron Rodgers, maybe.
Yeah, like the entire league just decides
Watson,
not to draft a quarterback. And like, that's the situation where I would
did
draft
like an ESPN draft, I think.
Yeah.
As like a joke. And wasn't Deshaun Watson going in like the 8th or 9th round? Like in a situation like that, you're taking him in the 8th round, I think.
Right. Yeah, no, I would definitely take him. Like there's certain guys that I would take. Like Cam Newton. If he's there in the 10th, 11th round and, he's probably going to come off the board in the next couple picks, I'll take Cam Newton. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, the difference between Cam freaking Newton and a 10th round running back or not very...
Right. The odds of you hitting on the 10th round running back.
Like, odds of hitting on Cam Newton, odds of hitting on a running back. You know what I mean? So, 12th round usually where I'm looking. That's if Cam Newton comes off the board a little earlier than I anticipated. But we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Let's move into forgotten quarterbacks from 2018 or 2017 or maybe before that if we're going to use some hot takes. But let's get started with number 1, Carson Wentz.
Oh, my guy.
You die on that hill.
I've been on this train for a month.
I was on that hill dying, and then I traded him, and
now I'm hopping on it.
Yeah, now you're hopping on the hill. I do like Carson Wentz. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a very good quarterback. He has a lot of things going for him right now. He has a good offensive line.
Check.
He has a good offense.
Check.
He has a lot of good wide receivers.
Check.
He has the second best tight end in football.
Check.
He is talented.
Check.
He's a mobile quarterback. He doesn't run like out of like he can get out of the pocket and make a pass is essentially what I mean. That's what tore his ACL a couple of years ago. He's liable to get a couple of rushing touchdowns every year, but you can't really rely on the rushing part of his game. Carson Wentz has had the ability to be a high-end quarterback and he showed it in his MVP season 2 years ago. I think people have completely, ever since the ACL injury, they completely forgot about Carson Wentz. It's true. I like to name drop the forgotten part of our name. But Carson Wentz has been completely forgotten about to the point where, what round is he going in? 10th round. So it's like last year, I took the leap because I love him so much that I drafted him in the 5th or 6th round. Yep.
I think it was 5th.
And I'm not on board with that anymore. I'm definitely not going to do that. But I've said that, I think I've talked about this before on the pod. Carson Wentz is the guy I drafted over a man named Joe Mixon, and so I made that mistake.
Yikes!
That's why I don't draft quarterbacks early anymore. But Carson Wentz in the 10th, 11th, or 12th round is absolutely fantastic. It is a great pick. A lot of people are ranking him a little bit further back. The only like platform that I've seen rank Carson Wentz as high as us is the Fantasy Footballers. So I would say Carson Wentz is definitely a good candidate to break out next year and get back to that level. You look at Tom Brady. He came off the best season of his entire career in 07? 07, yeah. I was going to say 2017. That is not right. In 2007, he came off the best season of his entire career.
Right.
And tore his ACL in game 1. And the following season after that, he was not the same guy.
But the hype was there, though.
The hype was there.
Yeah.
People drafted him, like they always
back
do.
in the fantasy football when it was still...
It took him 2 years or so to get back into the groove, and that's where Carson Wentz is now.
Right. Yep.
So he's the starting quarterback. They said, we believe in you by letting Nick Foles go.
They surrounded him with talent, adding Deshaun Jackson.
Like, this is it. Like, for me, people have forgotten about him. They're still forgetting about him, and now's your time to swoop in and snag a possible top 5 quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, when I said the round I want to draft quarterbacks is round 10, when I'm sitting there in round 10, the guy I'm targeting in every draft so far has been Carson Wentz. We've done 2 mock drafts. Both mock drafts on this show, I took Carson Wentz. I've been on the Carson Wentz train for a while now. people are definitely sleeping on him and forgetting how good he really was. The year he probably was going to win MVP. He was extremely, extremely good that year. And I'm not saying he's going to be that good this year because I don't think he will be. I was tempted to say yes, but yeah, I know.
Jump on the train, bro.
He's going in the 10th, 11th round for a guy who I think is probably going to be a top 6 quarterback, top 5 quarterback, fantasy wise. Like that's a major, major pickup. They surrounded him with, as I said, Deshaun Jackson. Their running game looks better this year. Their offensive line looks better this year. People are sleeping on Carson Wentz.
Yeah. He was weeks 1 through 14 in 2017 before his ACL injury. The number 2 quarterback in fantasy football.
Yeah.
That means he didn't play for 4 weeks. Had he played those 4 weeks, he's almost a lock to be. He was a good 42 points ahead of the number 5 guy, who was Cam Newton. And he was ahead of Alex Smith, who was the number 3 guy, by about 20 fantasy points. So there's a good chance that Carson Wentz most likely would have finished the season as a second, maybe even if he went off in the last 4 games, as the number 1 quarterback in fantasy in 2017. It was his MVP season. The guy was playing extremely well.
I'm not saying he's going to be that either.
Right? No. But I mean, I think he has the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
for sure.
If you're in the 10th or 11th round. See, this is my thing, is if you're drafting a quarterback in the 10th or 11th round, they're either going to be, if I draft Josh Allen in the 12th round, right? He's either going to be a breakout candidate or he's going to completely collapse and end up on my waiver wire.
Yeah.
And that's but what is the difference? The guy who you draft in the 12th round, regardless of what position it is, most likely it's going to end up as a guy that's going to hit the waiver wire. You know what I mean? And
so why not?
A lot of people are like, "Oh, that's not true. You'll get the 12th round. You can get some good guys."
You can
tell me 4 weeks into the season what 80% of people are doing with their 12th round pick.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's one guy every year that hits the 12th round, and that's about it. So for me, you get Carson Wentz. He's good. You got to get he's a top 5 quarterback, then you got a great guy. If he's 5 to 10, you still got a QB1, a guy that you could probably, keep on your bench, stream from week to week whenever he's got a good matchup. And then if he's 10 to 20, you probably just drop him or trade him or something like that. But I think he's definitely those 14 weeks where he was the number 2 quarterback in 2017. That's what Carson Wentz is. And I don't think he's very far from being that. I think last year he was out for the first couple games of the season. He had to miss the last couple games of the season. He spent half the season with a back injury. They traded for Golden Tate, which ruined their entire offense.
You hate Golden Tate, man.
I don't like Golden Tate at all. He's in New York now. Have fun. But I really do like Carson Wentz. I think I don't like him as much as you this year specifically. But if he's there in the 10th, 11th, 12th round, he's another guy that I'm looking at and going, I want to draft him.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Cam Newton, who's our number 2 guy. Cam Newton is ahead of a Carson Wentz on all of my ranking. I have him ranked in.
This might be.
This is a little bit.
Get your oven mitts out, boys. And girls.
He's like and girls. Cam Newton is my number 5 quarterback for 2019.
Ooh, I
have him in my tier 2 of quarterbacks.
Yes, it's pretty spicy. I don't think it's as spicy as I thought you were gonna go, but it's still pretty hot. It's like the oven was at 350, not 450.
Let me just give you. I kind of wanna. I'll go back to 2015. We'll just go back to 2015.
Okay,
2015,
that's a long time ago now.
Cam Newton was the number 1 quarterback in fantasy with 389 fantasy points. In 2016, he was. Good God, where are you, Cam? I can't find him.
He might have been hurt that year.
Yeah, hold on. I'm looking. He might have been hurt. Yeah, I think he was. QB 17, 254 fantasy points. 2017, he finished as the number 2 quarterback in fantasy football in 2017. Ooh. 2018, he finished number 12. Okay. 2019, he finished as the number 2 quarterback in fantasy football. That is my prediction. I love Cam Newton.
Just saying he's an up and down.
I'm saying that he's just like Matt Ryan and he's on the up year. Cam Newton, he doesn't. I referenced this earlier in the show. He does not throw for 4,000 plus yards a season.
No, he does not.
He can throw 30 touchdowns and 3,590 yards. That's possible. He doesn't throw a lot of yards. What he does do is make up for it with 700 rushing yards a year and like 5 rushing touchdowns. So that's what makes Cam Newton so efficient as a quarterback. Usually he is like Deshaun Watson, finishing in the top 5. Last year he did not finish in the top 10 because of a shoulder injury. He played, I think it was 16 games, 15 games maybe. And he was relatively
I think it was
efficient.
like even less, actually. I think it was like 14.
Yeah. But in 2018, let me just pull up the numbers for you, because I found this really interesting when I looked at Cam Newton's stats the other day. Because I scout the guys I like on a regular basis.
I bet you look at Cam Newton's stats every day.
I get sweaty every single time. There was this one guy in our league that was like dying by the Cam Newton sucks sword.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, dude, you need to relax. It was driving me crazy.
Yeah,
so
2 heads butting.
From weeks 1 all the way to week 12, Cam Newton finished as the number 4 quarterback in fantasy
Last
football
season?
This season.
Oh.
Weeks 13 to 15, after he had to grease up the old shoulder,
Right.
the dump offs to Christian McCaffrey weren't really working anymore, so he had to grease up the shoulder and throw 20 feet at like 20 miles per hour, which blows. But he had a shoulder injury, and that stopped him from producing at a high level. He had, over the course of I'm just going to go through those 12 weeks. Week 1, 18 fantasy points. Week 2, 28 fantasy points. Week 3, 29. 18 points the week after. 22, 23, 27, 21. Then week 10, he had a bad game against Pittsburgh. 14 fantasy points. And then he had 24 and 22. So he busted
That's a very good.
once over the course of those 12 weeks. And then weeks 13, 14, and 15, he had 15, 10, and 4. So that was after his shoulder injury. That was after he started trying to play through that. That game against Tampa wouldn't have been as bad as it was, but he threw 4 picks.
Yeah.
300 yards, 2 touchdowns in week 13, 4 interceptions. That's god-awful.
That's very bad.
What is that? Is that 8 fantasy points?
Yeah, it's something like that.
8 fantasy points. He would have had another 20-point week had that 4 interception game not happened. So Cam Newton, to me, I showed you the stats where he's off and on from year to year. Last season, he was still good, and he just busted at the end of the year, and he had shoulder injuries. What makes you believe that Cam Newton is not going to do that this year? Like, that's kind of what I'm
The only thing is, like, his shoulder is just, like, toasted. That's literally the only thing. Because if his shoulder is okay, which right now reports are that it is okay, then Cam Newton should be drafted higher than where he's going right now, I think.
And according to Fantasy Pros, Mr. Cam Newton has the 12th easiest schedule for quarterbacks.
Okay. I'm not always crazy about schedules unless it's like hard one way or the other. But
yeah,
that is another positive sign that he is top 12.
But his ECR rank right now, just overall, is 81.
Okay.
His best overall rank is 57. His worst overall rank is 142. And the ADP has him going 89. So
Fantasy Calculator has him going 100th.
Yeah. So that is...
Yeah. You're shaking your head.
It's a guy I want on my team is what I want.
Morgan for 5 months. Streaming quarterbacks is the way to go. Morgan on draft day.
Cam Newton is my quarterback of the future.
I took Cam Newton in the 3rd round. I don't regret it.
I don't.
I think you'd probably regret that, though.
You want to move on to the next guy?
Yeah.
I ranted for Cam Newton for about 10 minutes, and you didn't even say anything.
I just let you have your fun, man.
Enough said.
Carson Wentz was my guy.
I'll let you start this guy, Jared Goff.
Okay. People be sleeping.
People be forgetting.
So, Jared Goff.
Oh, God, I love Jared Goff.
Wow, that was...
There's so many quarterbacks late in the draft that people are just freaking forgetting about, and
it's perfect. It's a perfect situation right now for
people like me,
people like you, people like me. Because, like, let's look at the quarterbacks right now. In the 7th round, as constituted today, according to the fantasy calculator, you know what quarterbacks are going in the 7th round?
Give me the
Drew Brees
Jared.
and Kyler Murray.
Drew Brees and Kyler Murray. Okay, yeah.
Who's going in the 8th round?
Jared Goff.
Russell Wilson.
Oh, I like Russell Wilson.
Jared Goff's going in round number 10. Late round 10. 11th round. Would you take Jared Goff over those guys?
Yeah.
Me too. I would. Absolutely. You know, there was a time halfway through the season. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but this is just going off memory, where he was the number 2 quarterback in fantasy right behind Patrick Mahomes. Remember the Monday Night Football game?
Yep.
Or was it Monday Night Football, I think it was?
Oh, yeah.
When those two guys went head-to-head.
Week 12.
At the time.
Do you want to know what they were week 11?
Yes, sure.
Patrick Mahomes 1. Jared Goff 2.
Oh. Is that so?
Through 11 weeks. 12 weeks, Jared Goff was 5.
In the last few games of the season, the Rams' whole offense
Imploded.
It kind of imploded. People at the time thought they were just like resting guys and weren't really trying and like getting ready for the playoffs.
They were resting guys and not really trying.
They were, but they didn't exactly explode in the playoffs, their offense, like people thought they would. But through those first like 12 or so games, Jared Goff was the number 2 quarterback in fantasy. And he right behind Mahomes. And even if he wasn't number 2, he was number 3. He was right there with all those guys. Had a kind of struggled at the end of the year, but again, the whole offense did. And now people all of a sudden don't think he's a top 10 fantasy quarterback.
Can I give you a little grain of salt?
Sure.
With Goff. So the only thing that concerns me is the fact that Jared Goff is only good when he's sitting at home. And which doesn't make any sense for me. More specifically, because their home field is like the other team's fans.
Yeah.
So, but he had 17 week 1, 17 week 2, 26 week 3, 39 week 4, 16 week 5, 8 week 6, 16 week 7, and then 24 in week 8, 27 in week 9, 21 in week 10, 35 in week 11, and then it was 8 negative 0.3. 10.7, 17.
Negative 0.3.
Yeah, and 24. Carson Wentz had a negative point game this year, too. I think it was negative 3 points. But, like, you look at the course of those games, and there was about, I would say, 9 busts. And, his bust percentage, it was really high. And for me, when I look at a guy like Jared Goff, I love Jared Goff. I want to draft Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff has that ability to do what he did over the first 11 weeks of the season, but there's also that a reality that he's not going to give you huge games every week.
So if that stays consistent, right? Here's what I'll say.
Right.
First of all, we don't know if that could change. He could take, because he is a young quarterback.
Right.
So he could take that next step of playing well on the road. Like Russell Wilson has kind of done that in his career. You've seen other guys do that. Mm-hmm. But let's say he doesn't. He's going in the 10th, 11th round. Mm-hmm. So you can easily take Jared Goff and then do your research after the draft or even during the draft. Like you could do your research during the draft and take a guy who has the opposite schedule of Jared Goff and has kind of the advantages, and then you just play with two quarterbacks.
And just play with the two quarterbacks.
Or you could have like a streaming option for when Jared Goff is on the road.
Yeah.
So there are ways to counter that.
You know how many fantasy points he had on average on the road?
How many?
It was like 26.
Wait, he's gone on the road and bad at home?
I mean, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm sorry. I meant home.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say
26.
At home, he's like 12.
Yeah. Exactly.
He's not a quarterback. Like, people are forgetting how good he was last year through 11 weeks, but he's also not a quarterback that is going to, like, win you every single week and start every week like Mahomes is. It's just not going to happen. So I think that you do have to kind of have that backup plan if you got Goff. But I think that's why people are kind of fading him a little bit and not drafting him as high as they really should be. Simply because the fact that he just isn't consistent enough to produce at a high level.
See, I don't know about that though. You're right about the consistency, but I don't think he's like to say he's not consistent enough to like his total fantasy points are still going to be higher than I think a lot of people are saying.
Here's his problem though, and I think that there is Like, it's not just that he sucks on the road. There's a reason why he sucks on the road. It's because he literally needs the play call and the situation described to him in his helmet by Sean McVay in order to succeed.
Right.
So if he's on the road, like the reason why he dropped a turd in his pants in the Super Bowl is because 9 million Patriots fans showed up to that freaking game and he couldn't hear. He couldn't hear what was going on in his headset. So, and the Patriots, I don't want to talk about the Super Bowl. The Patriots would get up to the line of scrimmage. They would wait until the set cutoff time where he can't talk to Goff anymore, and they would change their setup. They would change their formation. And Goff was like,
yeah,
Dad, I can't hear you.
I know.
Tell me what's going on. Like, he can't make his own decisions, and
Right.
that's the problem with Goff on the road. If he can't make his own decisions, and I think Bill Belichick just gave the entire freaking league a cookie-cutter way of destroying Jared Goff. At home, he's fine. On the road, he's gonna bust. It's just that's how he's gonna be the rest of his life.
Are you? See, I don't think so. I don't know about that.
I think so. Unless he learns how to read defenses by himself, no.
Are you saying that's impossible for a quarterback who's drafted first overall and has a lot of upside?
I really do. I think if the fact that he didn't succeed until McVay got there.
We don't have to talk about this too much because it doesn't really affect. But
I'd rather talk
his,
about this in the next two quarterbacks. So,
dude, don't diss. All right. But even if you're right, which I don't think you are, by the way, I just want to make that clear that I don't think you're right. But even if you are, drafting him in the 11th round still shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it should not be a problem at all.
Because again, there's ways to counter that. So, but I don't think it's gonna be this year necessarily, but I do think in the future, Jared Goff will be much better on the road than he is now. I'm not saying he'll ever be great on the road, but there's been plenty of young quarterbacks that have struggled on the road because maybe not for that reason in particular, but loud noises and stuff like that, and have over time learned how to counter it. So.
Let's move on to our next guy, Derek Carr.
Yeah, baby.
This was your guy. This isn't
baby. What it do, baby?
What it do, baby? Derek Carr. Yeah, I don't know about this one. Right. This is a Rick original. So convince me.
This is a Rickster, a Rickster Pickster right here.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna look up some numbers to see if I can prove your point.
Derek Carr.
Meanwhile,
you're probably thinking, why is Derek Carr on this list?
My
butt across from me is thinking that right now. Why did Ricky put Derek Carr on this list? I'll tell you why right now. He's going undrafted in a lot of leagues, right? And if he is getting drafted, it's the very last round.
Okay.
Guys that are getting drafted are like Sam Darnold, Matt Stafford. Some of these guys that like. You're shaking your head right now. You're saying probably not going to draft those guys, right?
What is it? Say it again.
Sam Darnold.
I just looked at his numbers the last 2 years.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah. Can you say those two guys again?
I was just saying like Matt Stafford, Sam Darnold, some of those guys.
I would take Sam Darnold over Derek Carr.
You would?
Not Matt Stafford, though.
I want to quickly... Can you pull up the Fantasy Pros quarterback rankings for me? Half PPR.
You got it.
So, okay, I would take Derek Carr over both those guys. I mean, Sam Darnold I actually really do like, but still, Sam Darnold's Derek Carr's getting slept on. In the past...
I convinced you that Sam Darnold was better.
Yeah. Well, I do. I just have a chubby in my shorts for Sam Darnold.
All right, what did you want to know about Derek Carr?
Where is he ranked on quarterbacks?
25th.
25th.
Wonder where I have him ranked.
Can you name the top... Just out of curiosity, who's 5 guys ahead of him? 24 to 20.
Matt Stafford.
Okay.
Sam Darnold.
Okay.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay.
Excuse me. Tom Brady.
Okay.
And then Joshua Allen.
Okay.
I have him ranked 23rd.
Hey, there you go. Derek Carr's slightly higher on your list.
Yeah. Ben Roethlisberger's one spot ahead of him.
I think... I'm not saying Derek Carr... So, let me preference this. I'm not going to say Derek Carr should be a top 10 quarterback. I'm not saying he should be your starter or anything like that. But him being 25, I think, is very low.
Yep.
They acquired Antonio Brown.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a lot of things to that offense. a few years ago, Derek Carr was having the year of his life and was having an MVP season. He then had, I think he got hurt. The whole team changed. They got rid of their coach. That was the John Gruden. They kind of transitioned after that. Everything fell apart. I'm not saying, again, Derek Carr, see, your eyes are popping. What are you looking at right now?
Yeah, no, his highest ranked season was number 10.
And that year was what, 2016?
Yes.
So 2016, Derek Carr, you said
My God, he's been in the league this long.
Yeah, he's not.
In 2016, he finished with 268 fantasy points. And he finished number 10.
So Derek Carr, I mean, he has been in the league for a while, but like his first 2 years in the league don't even really count because he was on such a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
Like his team was absolutely the first year, absolutely awful. Second year, he was a Pro Bowl quarterback. Third year, and that's the year 2016. He played 15 games.
Right.
So he didn't play a full season. You said he finished 10th. He was an MVP candidate that year. Had a legitimate season. Next 2 years have kind of been disasters for the Raiders as a team too.
Yeah.
Can you make the argument this is offensively at least this is the best Raiders team that's been around Derek Carr maybe in his career?
Yeah, I could say that. Most talented at least.
So if you believe at all in John Gruden and you have the slightest bit of faith in Derek Carr, which I do because I liked him when they drafted him, then you have to say he's going to be a top 20 quarterback this year in fantasy.
Valiant effort. Well done.
I think I don't want to get too hot, so I'm not gonna. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I don't disagree with you. Looking at the situation for Derek Carr,
Which is, I think it's what it's kind of all about. For me.
Right. It's an improved situation. Josh Jacobs is your new running back. Right?
Correct.
Your offensive line is slightly improved.
Correct.
Which
was the worst in the league.
You have Tyrell Williams, who was very good.
Yep. People forget about Tyrell Williams. He's a very, very good receiver.
Very talented receiver from the Chargers. Always third string because they had Mike Williams. But you have a good wide receiver there, and then on the other side you have possibly the most talented wide receiver in the NFL.
Yep.
So you have a perfect situation if you're Derek Carr and your eye makeup.
If Derek Carr isn't good this year, he's never going to be good.
Yeah. If Derek Carr's never good if Derek Carr is not good this year, then he's never going to be good. He has all of the. See, this is what I don't get, and I'm trying to figure out this in my own head too, because usually you put crap around a guy. Not crap. You put talent around a guy. Mm-hmm. Like this talent, and you would think, okay, this guy's going to be big. Last year, a lot of fantasy football experts were in on Patrick Mahomes. And they were like, this guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be good. And they were dying on the Patrick Mahomes hill, like yourself, because he had Kareem Hunt, because he had Travis Kelce, because he had
Tyreek Hill,
Sammy Watkins. Like the
team was stacked.
They have a very, very good team, and in an offense that's extremely good. I think for Derek Carr, he has all the offensive pieces around him. The question is John Gruden's offense going to get back to what it was in the early 2000s when he was a good head coach, or is it just outdated so much that he can't produce at that level? Right. I mean, he's more of a defensive-minded head coach, so I'm curious as to who their offensive coordinator is, but I think that's the one difference, too, is that a guy like Andy Reid, who's an offensive genius.
I mean, John Gruden actually, I think, is known for his offense.
Is he?
Yeah. So
I think we have to see. Last year, Gruden blew it up.
He did.
He traded a lot of guys. They sucked, and he took a lot of heat.
Well, that's what I mean.
For having a bad team, but it was like he wanted his team. He signed a 10-year.
He's got his team this year.
What do you think a 10-year I hate to defend John Gruden, but being realistic, what do you think a 10-year contract means? It means he's going to try to build his team.
Yeah.
So that's why he traded, and he ended up with two top 10 picks or something, top 12. I can't remember, but he ended up
three first-round picks.
3 very good first-round picks. He used every single one of them, got some good players out of it. He improved his defense. He improved his offense. This is literally all on John Gruden at this point. If he does not produce, like if he does not coach this team to success, it's his fault.
There's a very good chance, by the way, that team could finish 4th in the AFC West. If you look at it, Denver's still a very talented roster.
I think they'll finish ahead of Denver, but
the Chargers.
Yeah, they're not getting past the Chargers or the Chiefs unless the Chargers implode. Regardless, Derek Carr has the pieces around him to be successful. It's surprising that he's not being drafted. I think it's just because he's been so bad the last 2 years. He's been.
But you said it yourself. Bad. Last year they tanked. You can't put that on him.
You can't put that on him, but he just wasn't a good quarterback in general. Like if you look at his numbers, it wasn't like he was accurate and just not trying. You know what I mean? He was bad.
Well, I mean, you can't look at his numbers though because
I'm not even talking about numbers. I'm not talking about yardage. I'm not talking about touchdowns. I'm talking about completion percentage. I'm talking about quarterback rating. I'm talking about the things that make you a good quarterback.
Completion percentage. He had the worst offensive line in the league statistically. You know how many throwaways he had? You know how many times he was pressured up the middle and pressured?
I'm going to give you the numbers on DCAR.
I'm pretty sure
we got metrics.
What was it?
I said we got metrics.
Oh, yeah. If you look up the numbers, I'm pretty sure Pro Football Focus had the Raiders as the worst offensive line in football last year.
Yeah, no, they do.
They do? So
Definitely.
The offensive line was wretched last year. So I think that does take a factor in his completion percentage. It does take a factor in, his passer rating and things like that. Well, you just shook your head.
No, he's so bad.
Oh.
His true completion percentage was 75%, which is not awful. That was number 3 in the league. Holy mackerel!
It was whoa! Time out.
Number
Let's
3
take a step back.
So
number 3 in the league. I
just want to let everyone know that this is a journey with all of us.
Yeah.
Take us on a ride because I'm finding stats right now that I didn't think I was going to find. His true completion percentage, which, by the way, according to Player Profiler, this is the completion percentage factoring out unpressured throwaways and drop passes.
Right.
So that's 75%.
So that proved my point way more than
that's what I went in here for. That's what I went in here for to go see.
Am I convincing you right now that Derek Carr is...
Stop it!
Uh-oh.
No more.
Uh-oh.
He had a 62.5% play action completion percentage. Red zone completion percentage was 62%. And then his deep ball completion percentage, which should go up this year, was 44%, which was number 4th worst in the NFL.
Right.
Which was number 4 best in the NFL.
What?
Yeah. Sorry.
Which will go up this year, you said?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, come on.
Shoot.
Oh, come on.
Derek Carr, sleeper quarterback, MVP. No, he's like laughing. His pressured completion percentage was 33%, which ranked 23rd. So he was generally not a terrible quarterback. The efficiency problems that he had was the fact that he had 3.8 air yards per attempt, which means that he was throwing.
He was just hucking the ball up.
No, that's short yardage.
He was throwing like screens?
Yeah, everything was dink and dunk. 3.8. I don't know if you heard me say 30. I think
I said 8.
38 or 8 yards. Yeah, no. So he was averaging almost 4 yards per attempt through the air. This is like to get it to the receiver. That's bad. That's what John Gruden wants to do.
That is like screens every...
Yeah. Honestly, his adjusted yards per attempt is 6.6, which is very low for a quarterback, too. Both ranked 22 among quarterbacks. So he's not elite, and he's not great. But I think with the talent, you can make an argument. There's an argument here to be made.
Yeah. Alex Smith wasn't elite either. But he was always like... Not always, but he finished like 2 straight years where he was a top 5 fantasy quarterback because he had a fantastic team around him. I'm not saying Derek Carr's going to be top 5 by any means. Yeah. Someone's going to clip that. But
right.
I don't even think he'll be top 10, but...
This is crazy. His accuracy rating from last year. He was so bad last year, and like these numbers amaze me. So the accuracy rating is a rating that grades the accuracy of each throw on a scale of 1 to 4.
Someone's got to do a lot of research for that stat.
These people are ridiculous. 1 representing the least accurate, 4 representing the most accurate. Quarterbacks with accuracy ratings above 3 are considered highly accurate, and those below 2 are considered highly inaccurate. He's a 3.1. Which is number 3 in the league last year.
Oh my.
So he was actually one of the most accurate quarterbacks.
Hold on, I got to take something out the oven.
his wide receivers.
Derek Carr will be a top 15 fantasy
His wide
quarterback
receivers
next year.
dropped 28 passes, which ranked number 8. Yeah, that's crazy.
I think we did it.
He still threw 4,000 yards.
We just made a convincing argument that Derek Carr
Oh.
should be drafted.
Somehow I helped with that.
He did.
I did.
You helped me out. I was losing that battle, and then you pulled up the stats, and I just
was
won.
like, you just won. You were like, this is not.
It's like
gonna go well.
it's like those like
His,
cliches in wars when like the one side is getting beaten up, and then all of a sudden like their buddies come in, and all of a sudden like they roll through their enemy. That's what just happened.
So he is a little bit riskier. Interceptable passes, number 20. He threw 27 interceptable passes. They weren't necessarily intercepted, but they're interceptable, which ranked number 4 among quarterbacks. 36 danger plays, which is any play in which the quarterback lacked awareness or took an unnecessary risk that could have resulted in a turnover. He had 36 of those, which ranked number 2. So decision-making wasn't very great there. He is accurate. He's accurate, but his decision-making wasn't there. There's this other metric, money throws. It's a pass requiring exceptional skill or athleticism. He had 20 of those. Number 12.
Oh boy.
I think his one problem, he threw 4,000 yards last year. I think his one problem was just passing touchdowns. He only had 19. So
You think Antonio Brown?
I would
can
think
help with
Antonio Brown can do that. My problem is the offense.
that? The offense that is much improved.
I'm not talking about talent. I'm talking
Oh,
about
the
the
scheme?
offense, the scheme. Like 3.8 yards an attempt.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm sorry. All right, let's get to our next guy. We'll do this guy really quickly because he's a guy we didn't want to put on here anyway.
We just needed a fifth.
We just need a 5th guy.
But I can make an argument for him too.
Yeah, no. I actually like Kirk Cousins. So Kirk Cousins is an interesting little player that he didn't really expect to like when you were talking about him last week. But then after that day, I started to do a little more research. Made the argument again. Dude, flip is this? I started to do some research on Kirk Cousins, and I found out a couple of statistics that were now a lot of these guys were talking about here, like Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins. Reality is they're probably not going to be good, but they're like you could make a reasonable ploy to draft it. You say you have 7 bench spots or 8 bench spots. You can make a reasonable deep leagues. You can make a reasonable like plot to draft Derek Carr on your team. Kirk Cousins, however, is a much better version of Derek Carr over the last couple years than yeah.
Yes, he's finished.
He's much better than Derek Carr. But in 2017, he finished number 6.
Okay.
In 2016, he finished number 5. In 2015, he finished number 8.
Okay.
And let's just go to 2014 and see what happened just for kicks. I didn't go back that far in preparation for the show. He finished...
Was he even the starter?
I don't even think he was a starter.
I'm pretty sure that was RG3.
Yep, that was RG3. So, and then in 2018, last year, just to give you guys some perspective, he was 13 in the new Minnesota offense. So he wasn't even that bad last year. Still finished top 15.
And so he's finished in each year of his career in the top 13.
Yep.
3 of the 4 years that you said he finished in the top 8.
Right.
And he's the 22nd quarterback off the board right now?
That's ridiculous.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No.
I think people are sleeping.
People are, definitely.
People be sleeping.
People are forgetting about Kirk Cousins and how good he has been. I think my only concern with Kirk Cousins is that he was good in that Washington offense.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense
And
because
then-
you can make the argument. I mean, not even make the. I mean, it's almost factual.
It's John Gruden's son, and he's actually good with offenses. So
That is true, but the Vikings offensive personnel is so much better.
oh yeah, I don't disagree
a lot
with that.
better. Like
I think
Stephon
their head
Diggs, Adam
coach is not
Thielen,
an
Kyle
offensive
Rudolph.
guy. That's the problem.
That is, yeah.
But
Dalvin
you
Cook.
saw him drop when he joined Minnesota. So the question is, will that continue or will they improve?
Right.
I think Minnesota had a down year last year in
did.
general as a team. But I think that Kirk Cousins, he has to this year take that leap into the top 10 again in order for me to consider him. Like, if he finishes 12, 13, 14 next year, I can keep looking at those statistics from 2015, 2016, and 2017.
Say it was Washington.
And hope. But if he does the same thing again this year, I'm just going to say it's a Washington and call it a wash.
But even if he's 12th or 13th, he shouldn't be undrafted.
No, is he undrafted right now?
I think he's 14th round.
Good God.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What the heck, people?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kirk Cousins is worth a look in the 13th, 14th round. I'm going to...
Fantasy calculator has him going in a 12-team league, the 13th round. So that's like in the middle of the 13th round. So 10-team league.
15th round.
14th round, bro.
Wow.
Fantasy calculator.
Wow, they are not loving.
There's so much talent on that team, and the fact that he's never finished below, 12th last year, 13th?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
He was slightly inconsistent, but, I mean...
Yeah.
First couple weeks of the season, I just give you the first 4 weeks. He faced San Francisco, Green Bay, Buffalo, and L.A. He scored 20, 32, 13, 30.
Hey, you know what?
I'm curious. I'm going to go look at Fantasy Pros and see
you
where he
take
ranks
Jared
up.
Goff, and you need someone to play opposite schedule. Maybe Kirk Cousins is that guy.
Maybe. He was number 6 in the first 4 weeks of the season. So, good. We have to complete our show, but Kirk Cousins, definitely a guy people are forgetting about.
Yeah,
he finished 3 seasons in a row in Washington as a top 8 quarterback, and then last year he was a top 15 quarterback. So if you're asking me why Kirk Cousins is not getting drafted, that's a really good question, and I'll consult you next week.
Maybe it's just because. So, the argument of like, well,
he's talented, he's there.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
maybe it just took
he's
him
not
a year.
super talented. He's more.
He's actually really.
I'm sorry. I meant the people around him are super talented. Is what I meant.
Maybe it just took him a year to learn the offense too. You can make that argument.
Very, very, very reasonably.
He's played in one offense his whole career.
That offensive line is really good. You didn't have Dalvin Cook for a lot of the season last year. Mm-hmm. You have two of the best. You have maybe the best wide receiver tandem in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that team was really good when they had Alex Smith. That could be wrong.
Case Keenum.
Case Keenum. And I think Kirk Cousins being what he was in
Kirk
Washington,
Cousins is better than Case Keenum.
Clearly. And I think that if you are going to continue forgetting about Kirk Cousins, feel free, because this guy might even draft him as like my 16th player.
Hey, there you go.
So a couple weeks ago, I was making fun of Kirk Cousins.
You roasted me when
I even roasted a guy on Twitter. I apologize if you listen to this podcast. I didn't mean to roast you that hard. He called them elite quarterback, and I roasted him.
Okay, well, I mean, I might. That's a little much,
but 4,000 yards. Over the last 4 seasons, he's had 4,000 yards consecutively, which is very good.
Stats don't lie, man.
Very good quarterback. But that'll do it for our Forgotten QBs episode. We have one more Forgotten episode left, and it's for tight ends. Should be a boring.
That's everybody.
Yes, which is everybody. Yeah, Forgotten tight ends. So be sure to listen to that next Tuesday. You got any closing thoughts for our Forgotten?
Dude,
audience?
we missed one. Everybody forgets Patrick Mahomes, man. He's so good.
See you Tuesday, Fantasy Champs.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.